Welcome to Rogue Valley Manor, a senior living community located in Medford, Oregon. Started in 1961 to provide care for seniors, it was started by an ecumenical group of Methodists, Episcopalians, and Presbyterians. Today, RVM has grown into a multicultural community where approximately 1,000 residents live on 668 acres. Although no longer connected to these denominations, spirituality is very much part of their aging process.
My spirituality helps me just to cope with day-to-day issues.
My life is full of many blessings. I will try to live a life deserving of them by offering my time and love to others. So I guess that's how I define my spirituality.
I believe strongly in a God who's in control. And so even though I don't understand why it's going this way, I have the confidence that things will turn out.
Spirituality and aging. Spirituality is an abstract concept. Nothing that you can put your hat on or hang on or touch.
Healthy aging to me is being happy now, being peaceful now, enjoying life in this present moment.
When residents move into a continuing care retirement community, they often envision living out their later years, including their last years, active and engaged. They will have access to all kinds of activities and social connections. Partially, they move into a retirement community, having the assurance that their housing and medical needs will be met with their new community, while knowing they will never have to move again. And while this kind of wraparound security may not have been possible in their earlier lives, there is nothing in any retirement community that can guarantee inner peace, contentment, and spiritual health. Dr. Christina Plahowski, director of the George Washington Institute for Spirituality and Health, contends that spirituality is the aspect of humanity that refers to the way individuals seek and express meaning and purpose, and the way they experience their connectedness to the moment, to self, to others, to nature, and to the significant or the sacred. So while adults in their senior years are now more secure, they are nevertheless on the path of facing some of the deepest existential questions and situations of human life. Questions on what is meaningful or what is most important in the face of aging, loss, decline, or death are very present. These are the questions at the heart of this film and my exploration. As their director of spiritual care and well-being, I have been blessed to walk with them. Now I invite you to walk with me as we unpack how residents spiritually engage questions about aging, meaning, and purpose. Our first interview begins with Rusi. Born in India to ethnic Parsis and religiously a Zoroastrian, Rusi moved to the United States in 1959. A senior leader in both the National and International United Way, as well as active with the United Nations. Listen now as Rusi shares what is important to his spiritual health.
I think mostly meditation and prayers. And our prayers are very old, ancient Avesta language. I don't know that, I cannot speak that, but there are scriptures, in the original language, going back more than 2,000 years, at least more than 2,000 years. So, as a Zoroastrian, I do adhere to that regularly, on a daily basis. In fact, 3 times a day. First thing, when I first get up, out of the bed, I say a small prayer, short prayer, for about 3 minutes, roughly.
For Rusi, finding purpose is important.
Why am I here? And what is the purpose in life? And what should be the purpose in life for me? And that part is easy for me. And that easy part is to do as much good as possible.
Active in the UN for many years, it is no surprise that Rusi's spirituality is directly tied to how we treat others.
It's important to respect the dignity of a human being, very important to me, for example. And that you can say part of my spirituality. Even when I see somebody hating somebody else, that's hurtful to me. Or any kind of hurt to other people is hurtful to me. And that's my humanity.
For Rusi, his religious convictions guide his actions.
In my religion, manasni, gavasni, kunasni, meaning good words, good thoughts, and good deeds. This is the foundation of Zoroastrianism. If you do these three things, you don't have to do any kind of ritual or any kind of formal procedure, religious procedure, even prayers. If you believe and practice it, practice good word, good thought, good deeds, each and every day, to do as much good as possible, any opportunity you have to be kind to somebody.
Our second interview is with Daphne. Daphne is a 74-year-old marine biologist and professor. Daphne grew up with a Mormon father and a Jewish mother. It was only later in life she was able to reconnect with her Jewish roots and became active in her religious heritage. Daphne's journey is unique. She has chosen the day she will die. With a terminal illness, she has decided to use Oregon's Death with Dignity law. Let's listen to her own words as she describes her choice.
I got a terminal diagnosis of leukemia just over 2 years ago, and I had decided at the outset not to have a bone marrow transplant, which was the only possible cure. I would go to sleep at night and I didn't want to wake up. And I was thinking about it, nothing brings me joy. So I thought, well, being dead won't be any different. And that's pretty much the way it was.
For Daphne, meaning and control are important in the living and the dying process.
Oh, no, there's a direct correlation. The fact that I couldn't find meaning in anything I was doing helped me to reconcile myself to medical aid in dying. Yes, definitely. 6 months to live is not very long, and so I was put on hospice, and people have tried to talk me out of it, but I really need to do this for me. I want to have control. It's very important to me to have control. That's really, I think most people are not afraid of dying as much as the process of dying. They're afraid of suffering, of losing their dignity, and I don't want to do that either. And I just want to be healthy until I die.
Finally, Daphne is practical and sees God in all things.
Where is God? I think God understands. God was there in the Holocaust, and God is there. God is everywhere. I think that the spirituality is something that I can latch onto and that helps me to survive the next week until I take the medication.
Ernie is a former college professor and church elder who often leads resident Bible studies. For Ernie, spirituality is embedded in his biblical and theological convictions.
Of being with him, and being shaped and being able to do things there that you were designed to do from the beginning. So that kind of Reformation belief that there is a God who does control is vital to my understanding. The other thing is, though, that that God who controls says, if you're going to be my child, you have to do some controlling. So I have this crazy mixture of determinism and free will.
For Ernie, being open to change is part of his spiritual practice.
Well, part of it is that I've had to be willing to change as I've changed. I've always been physically active. And as the years go by, I get less and less physically active. I've always been very quick and intellectually. And every once in a while you run into things where you find you're not as quick as you used to be, especially in taking on new ideas and going deeply into new ideas. I've spent my life as an academic so that it's not just talking about knowing an idea. I want to know all that's underneath that idea.
Finally, for Ernie, the spirituality of aging is a surrendering.
Probably the thing I would always keep coming back to is, if you are aging in the sense that you see that I have to do these things or I won't age well or all of this, that somehow or other it's me that has to do these things. That if I can't shape things around me in such a way, rather than being able to say, there is a power and an authority that is taking over and watching me.
There is much diversity at Rogue Valley Manor. Jan is a retired veterinarian and professor, raised Christian, but now considers herself an atheist. Unlike others in our film, she doesn't get her identity from the Bible or other people, but from a connection to self.
For me, healthy aging is a combination, I think. One of the things that I've discovered just recently is that I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life. And part of it is, I think it's a twofold thing. One is being connected to myself, being in contact with who I really am, and drawing whatever I need, peace or power, from the connection to that inside person. So I don't get my safety from things or circumstances, or really even from other people. And healthy aging, to me, part of it is a lifetime need to feel safe. And so for me, safety is independent of circumstance, because I always have me with me.
And integration leads to the physical self and one's presence.
So I think that meaning for me is understanding that everything is physical. I don't think there is anything that isn't. I think the universe is basically made of stuff, matter, that behaves in predictable ways, that we try to predict by defining some laws, but they're always subject to revision as we learn more. And I don't believe I belong to a species that is superior to others. It's just different. I don't think we own the planet. The planet was here long before we were. I think our responsibilities to ourselves and our group and our planet are the meaning in life, that I need to behave in ways that are authentic. The most important thing is that what I say and do is what I think and feel. And so I'm not here to fulfill some purpose that is outside me. I'm here to be connected to who I am and to be completely responsible for my behavior and not offload that onto anybody else.
Finally, Jan sums up aging.
It is an astonishing and fascinating process. I had no idea that I was going to be this happy and have this much fun at this age.
So far, we've looked at singles. Now we'll look at couples. For couples, aging together presents different challenges. Steve and Jane are retired teachers who moved to the manor relatively young. Both have spent their lives serving and fostering children. Steve and Jane celebrate a more eclectic spirituality, including Buddhist practices. For Jane, healthy aging is listening with the heart to give.
I think, as I said, listening to myself, listening to the guidance that I receive, and also when I see a need that a person has or the community has, creating a program or creating an activity to meet that need, or to sit down and listen to someone who's in need at that moment. It's a giving process.
For Steve, purpose is noticing both beauty and change.
I love to look for beauty in relationships, and I love to look for beauty in music and in nature. This campus right now is unfolding. It's spring and everything is blooming, and I just love watching daily the changes that are occurring on campus right now. It gives meaning to my life. Life is about change, about constant change.
Steve and Jane are not immune from physical challenges, but these challenges give way into spiritual reflection and connection.
I found out I had cancer and I had X amount of time left, or whatever that is, but the light at the end of the tunnel is growing brighter. I thought, well, how do I want to live from here to there? What do I want my life to look like for the last part of the journey? And I want it to be loving. I want it to be peaceful. I want it to be kind. I want to, let go of hurts and regrets and forgive myself for mistakes in the past and enjoy the present as much as possible.
Well, we hold on to each other. We're very good. I think sometimes couples fall apart when things get difficult, but our history has always been that we get closer and we stick together during really hard times, and we have had some real hard times.
Yeah, I think it's bonded us during some really tough times.
But what about dying? For Steve, metaphor helps reshape the lens on his life.
I think, in a Buddhist sense, my ego wants to be caught up in being afraid of death. Oh my God, death's going to happen to me. My body is going to disappear. And in a spiritual sense for me, in a Buddhist sense, is that it's a continuation of a journey. It's not an end. Even though my ego self wants to get into fear about it, and it's been really helpful to think about that process of life doesn't end. That our bodies go back to the earth. A leaf falls off the tree. The leaf, when it's falling off the tree, doesn't fear that end. It's its time, and it leaves the tree.
For Jane, spirituality with her partner is a connection with the heart, centering around being good companions.
Yeah, we love to spend time in
spend
beauty.
time in nature, but we really talk things through. We've been married almost 50 years, and we're not just married, we're really good friends. And so I think that heart connection and is a spiritual connection. And it's being good friends has gotten us through some very, very tough times.
respecting each other, I think, as a form of love.
In a retirement community, people get chronic illnesses. Let us listen to Kathy, who is a former teacher and retired attorney who was raised and continues to identify as Catholic but does not attend religious services. Kathy has been recently diagnosed with a terminal illness. She is learning to review what it means to be aging and terminal.
Well, when you made the comment on the phone that I was aging and terminal, it was an extremely good use of words and accurate. Neither thought had occurred to me. And I can't believe neither thought had actually gone in. You know, I was just busy swimming. So I've started to process those words. So I thought that that was very helpful. I think using direct language is very helpful, because those two words cannot be avoided.
For her, it seems that time is most important.
Is it worth my time and energy to do it? Everything isn't worth my time and energy. Some things are just irritants in life. No matter what I do, it's not going to change. I think it affects how I age. I hadn't plugged into spiritual because I'd given myself 10 more years of living. You know, looking at my family system and what people died of and stuff. Logically, I should go to 85. My mother went to 82, grandmothers, you know. So this is like moving my clock up a lot. So I am still in the time warp of dealing with that.
And for difficult times, Kathy embraces her values.
Core values, you know. Work hard, self-reliance, a God-centered life, a human being-centered life where people are important. You make decisions on people, not dollars.
For her, closure is dealing with goodbyes.
But I have to deal with goodbyes. Pat just got tickets to go back to Cincy, so we can do that. Everybody will be there.
And for Kathy, when asked what gave her purpose, she leans on family. And part of that purpose is to help her son let go.
And then work on consensus of when I can let go and when my son will let me go. I mean, I'm not going to stay around with a bad quality of life. We can't breathe. That's how I see it. There's no other way I can see it. I think he'll need more exposure to it to get ready to let go. You know, we all as kids gave our parents permission to die. I think it's very important. So, when I get more facts and I can line up more facts with, you know, these are the numbers, this is what's happening, you know, it won't get this big, it'll only get this big, you know, this is what we need to do. I'm sure he'll come around. I'm not worried about that. He's just not there yet.
Terminal illness and death are present. For our next interview, Jan is a retired nurse who was also raised Catholic, but left the church and no longer sees herself as religious, but more spiritual. She is open to other religions and psychology.
You know, one of the things that has helped me over the years is that I am very capable of compartmentalizing my life, and not everybody can do that. I can, and it's helped me hugely. I think that's, as you age, you have chapters in your life, or I have anyway, pretty much defined chapters. And it's helped me get through those.
Jan is unique. She was married to Jack, a physician who practiced death with dignity.
So Jack used the Oregon law to end his life in 2014. And for him, it was absolutely the right thing to do. He had a lot of health issues. His diagnosis of myelodysplastic syndrome had nothing to do with any of his other illnesses. It came up rather suddenly, but his idea of dignity was very personal and self-centered, as it should be. He did not want a slow, gradual decline. He did not, although he'd had that for a couple of years, he didn't want to be bedridden.
For Jan, a mother and healthcare leader, organizations without judgment is key.
Oh, I've been wrong in my life, certainly. I've made some bad decisions. That's why I've had so many chapters in my life. Certainly I could be wrong. And I used to be really thin-skinned. I could not take criticism. I could take it, but it just hurt me very deeply. Now, I'm a lot more willing to say, I am sorry, I am wrong. Please, I apologize, forgive me. I've told my kids that. I told my parents that. I think it's very important to be able to do that. So yeah, I've been wrong.
Finally, Jan believes it is hope that directs one through life, even in difficult times.
I don't believe that we can live without hope. It just springs eventually, even in times of despair. And another thing that I sort of live by is this too shall pass. We all go through hard times, but we survive it one way or another, and I've managed to come out on top all these times.
Each of us have a story to tell. Let us listen now to Tico and her narrative. She's a retired wildlife biologist who was born during World War II in a Japanese internment camp. Raised with a Buddhist father, but also influenced by her Christian aunt and the local pastor's wife.
Because I had no mother, the preacher's wife and her daughter and I were very, very close because I lived next door to the church and I was over there all the time. And the pastor's wife then treated me like her child. And so I was part of their family. And I think, that's where the spirituality came from and in my connections to people.
After facing discrimination in the church in her early adulthood, she became turned off. Today, Tico's spirituality is more universal.
My spirituality, I guess, comes from connections with nature, with people that I really enjoy being around, new people that I've met. And also the thing is that I see so much need everywhere around me that, and that's something that I feel that in my little space and with my talents, that's something that I can do, and just small things. But it's some of the smallest things that, surprise me, that mean the most.
As adults, we often review parts of our life seeking awareness. Provoked by her divorce, Tico sought to reconnect with her mother, whom she lost as an infant in the internment camp.
I learned that one of the things that I really needed to do was finally come to peace about my mother dying when I was 1, and I never got a chance to know her. And I didn't have a mother, only role models. And, I could never really let her go. And so at age 70, I go on this pilgrimage to try to find out who my mother was and try to connect. I'm sorry, this still is really emotional for me. So, and what I did was I went back to Minidoka, a national monument, and met with all these people that were also on the pilgrimage for a certain reason to connect with their relatives or their parents or their brothers and sisters or whatever it was of who had the same camp experience that my mother and dad and I had. And So what I found was that, I would ask everybody, did you know my mother? And most of them did not know my mother. But I did find one person that was her piano teacher. And she told me as much about my mother as anybody. And then she told me about somebody else who might have known my mother. And so I got in contact with that person. But that whole experience of going on that pilgrimage where she died and was just one of those experiences where you felt like you were in a holy place. And so, I knew that she loved me, and that it wasn't her choice to go. So I still can't get over that.
Tico sees friendships as an integral part of her journey and her health.
I think you just realize as you grow older how important friendships mean to you, and that really you can't do anything alone. You're really connected with the community, you're really connected with people, and that without them, then your own mental and emotional health is at stake.
We end our last interview with Carol, a retired teacher. After being married to a man and having a son, she has been partnered for many years and now married to another woman. Carol is from New York and grew up in a Jewish family.
The Judaism was very important to me. That's the way I grew up. That's the way my family grew up. All of us, father, mother, brothers, and everybody included. And I enjoyed that. But as I grow older, it's the spirituality is more into who I am, as far as not being that religious part of it. It makes me feel really good because I know who I am.
Religious connection or affiliation has not always been healthy. Carol has had to help her wife work through her family's deep prejudice.
She grew up in a very super religious home and is still paying dearly for that. It's been tough. Lots of layers I had to peel off, and it took years to do that.
For Carol, spirituality is both embodied and physical.
I think that, once again, it's important to know your body and what feels right and take care of yourself. And I'm very, very careful about that. I think my walking, no matter where my wife is, has really made a huge difference in how I feel. With the walking every day, whether it's raining or sunny, if I have to walk indoors, I walk indoors. If not, I'll walk outdoors. Much prefer the outdoors. I think my walking, my exercise, plays a huge role in that.
According to Jung, the task of the second half of life is to reconnect and to recover the soul. Throughout this film, we see that manor residents reconnect from different backgrounds and very different outlooks. But there are common threads that weave their stories together. These threads often emerge during change, difficulty, and growth. All recognize the importance of being open, seeking a deeper connection to self and others, and giving back to one's community. Almost entirely absent is a sense of just treading water. And yet, when we listen closer to their narratives, we notice that maintaining the kinds of connections that foster spiritual health do not happen on their own. These seniors intentionally engage in activities that nourish and deepen connection with others, that in turn nourishes and deepens themselves. Either way, we see that recognition of what is most important in life must be accompanied by both regular connection and regular spiritual practice. This circle of examination, contemplation, connection and reconnection, and service to others seems to be the key, not only to gratitude and contentment, but also to the successful wrestling these older adults engaged in as they responded to changes and loss. I have been honored to be their director of spiritual care and well-being. Although my role was to walk with them on their journey as they process and reframe what it means to get older, it was I who was the student. These gatherings taught me and helped me with my own struggles with getting old. Erik Erikson, a pioneer in the stages of human development, once said, "The task of later life is to recognize death as a final gift." My prayer is that this film allows us to see both life and death as gifts.